Hello, I am Ben from the Mark Harrison Band, joined by Mark Harrison from the Mark Harrison Band. How are you today?
I'm alright, thank you, Ben.
Cool. So we are currently promoting a new album
Yep.
named
The Road to Liberty.
The Road to Liberty, and this is number
Oh, seven.
7.
Counting the live album, yeah, 6 studio and 1 live, yeah. Previous ones have been made in a fairly normal fashion, I suppose. Go in the studio and record people separately with overdubbing, although we've always done a rhythm section together. And this time, because Charles Benfield, who's produced it as well as playing double bass on it,
Yep.
he's been running the whole thing, and he decided to take a new approach, which was to do it as live, as far as possible, exactly as live, but obviously in a studio setting. So we took a room for a couple of days in the heat wave in August, and we played the 3 of us together, so as live, including the singing, and we did 21 songs in those 2 days in record temperatures.
We did. It was very hot. But
It was.
What an achievement, I feel.
It was a huge achievement, and we did, I think, only 2 or 3 takes of each one. And mostly the third take was the one to keep, but sometimes I think the second one was okay. Somehow we kept going, and so the last ones we did were as well done as the first.
More of a DIY approach to it than I wasn't around for the first few albums, like thinking about from writing to printing. Is there less people involved in this one?
There are certainly not as many people involved. I mean, there was always an attempt to capture a organic sound, so
Sure.
it wasn't ever that anything was done as a kind of heavily produced thing. But the system was a little bit different, and people added their things. In the earlier days, there were more people in the band. And then the last couple of albums, it was the 3 of us, and but we added others who came in on different days. So we had Paul Tichenko, brilliant genius, multi-instrumentalist, playing all manner of things, and on the last album we had Paddy Milner, the great piano player. And this time we've done something quite different, which is to explore all the variety and range of sounds and textures and atmospheres that the 3 of us can create.
Yes.
And so it is definitely a very different kind of record.
Talk about band members. There's only 3 of us right now. How many have you had in the band in the past?
Three's plenty, isn't it? We once were up to 6, but I mean, you know, in the earlier days, we kicked off in 2010 was the first album. That was basically me and Charles. And we had Will Greener, the great harmonica player. We did a lot of things as a trio, and we had other people in the band as well, kind of part-time. It was never that you're in it or you're out. You know, I always wanted it so that nobody felt obliged to come and do a gig, and people could come and go. So it was always a pretty relaxed setup. So there was a point at which there were 6, but that's quite a few years ago. And then, for various reasons, 3 went, and so Charles and I felt that the trio was a very, very good idea. So I'm more than happy to do that.
And I guess with people who are in or out, in quotation marks, it frees you up to be a bit more flexible in the sense of doing a gig, whether it's solo, duo, trio.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect people to commit themselves full-time to it. And you know, people have other things to do in music and in life. And you know, unless you're able to offer people a full-scale annual salary, you know, I don't think you should expect them to do everything. So I think one of the key points was that I could always do the gig. And if it was something small that wanted solo, I can go and do solo. And of course, I do tons of those, and we do duos, you and me, or me and Charles, and to fit the occasion, really. straight away, you know, we felt at the beginning that the music wasn't in a specific genre. So although, you know, a lot of what we do is connected with blues music, I don't really think it's blues music. It's more like it's songs about blues people, some of them.
Yeah.
But it's not what most people understand these days by blues music. It's got folk type things in it, but obviously we're not a straight down the line folk act. I guess it's more like general roots music. You know, I'd like to think in the same sort of category as the band were all those years ago.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the really good things. You're not confined to a particular scene,
Yeah.
a particular set of gigs, and we do get to play places that people in a single genre don't. So, you know, we do quite a few theatres, art centres, festivals of a kind that you know, is because we are not attached to a particular genre, has perhaps more general appeal. I don't think that my own feelings are a subject I particularly would want to go out and deliver to audiences. And it's bad enough to have them without having to go out and perform them. And most people in the game of songwriting do that and think that it's a form of self-expression in which they deliver to I guess an audience, a public, their own innermost thoughts and feelings, and I'm just not interested in that. I'm not interested in doing it. I'm not especially interested in hearing it. You've got to have something new to say for any of these things to hold anyone's attention. And you know, there's nothing new under the sun, as the expression goes, but there are different ways of saying things. And I think in music, there's whole massive areas of life and thoughts that people just don't cover because they're talking about themselves. And if you decide not to do that, then it opens up the other 99.9% of the world as potential subject matter for writing a song.
Sure. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't analyse it because it's just what I do, and it's what I started doing right at the beginning. But once you have that kind of revelation that you can take what is essentially old music, proper music, real music from the past, from the origins of all popular music, which is blues, folk, etc., then if you decide that you can write about anything, then that opens up every thought you may have about the world around you as a potential subject. So that's how I do it. I suppose because of the way we did it, started off in the normal fashion with a list of potential songs, as we've done with every album.
Yeah.
I've never written an album, so it's never been that you record an album and that clears everything out, and then you perform those songs for a year or 2 years, and then you start again and write a new album, and etc. It's never been like that. I've never got rid of the songs. You know, we still perform ones from the first album, the second album, they're all still alive. And so it isn't that each one is a separate set of thoughts or a separate enterprise in that way. So what's normally happened is that Charles and I have constructed a list and then whittled it down. And that's meant over the years that a number of songs never quite made the cut, but there was never a solid reason for that. Perhaps just that there were others that we were performing more, or ones that, you know, were more familiar because of the number of times they'd been done. But it didn't mean the ones left out were, as it were, not any good. And this time we couldn't whittle the list down. And I was whittling it down, and then you were saying, "Oh, I thought we could do that one." And Charles said, "Oh, I quite like that one." And it came to a point then where, I don't know, we thought, all right, let's do them all.
Yeah.
So for the very first time, we'll be clearing the decks here. And some of these songs have been rejuvenated. They're ones that were written quite some time ago.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. How old do you think is the oldest track on it, do you think?
The oldest track on it is the first one I ever wrote on the 12-string.
Right, yeah.
So that's over 10 years ago.
Goodness.
And that's called Everybody Knows. That was, when I first got the 12-string, I tried to play Blind Willie McTell's Statesboro Blues, the original version of it. But I couldn't work it out and I couldn't do it, and I wound up with a completely different tune. So I put some words to that.
And that's Everybody Knows.
Yeah, and then I put a middle eight in it, turned it into a very different thing. You know, what's happened is that you and Charles have done arrangements for each song yourselves, the bass and particularly the drums and percussion, and that's turned them into things they've never been before. So they are, the old songs now are new. As far as I'm concerned, they've just started.
It's easy for me to see, give biased comments, I guess, but yeah, every track does feel fresh and alive. The sound of it's really coming on. We're still working on it.
Yeah, I think one of the great discoveries, I guess, from my point of view, as we start to listen to the tracks put together as albums, is the incredible amount of variety of sound and, as I say, and atmosphere that the three of us managed to generate.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, here's a bunch of songs done by the same lineup, and it's just, you know, the same sound with a whole lot of different tunes. It's a whole lot of different sounds.
Yeah.
A whole lot of different bands, really, in a way.
Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing. It's an attitude question that doesn't sometimes do me any favours. You know, I've seen a lot of people who I like over the years, a lot of top quality artists who've been around a long time.
Yeah.
And essentially they do the same show after show and year after year. And I absolutely understand that. One of the reasons why you might want to do that is it's a comfort zone. And I was thinking about this. I mean, I know certainly one artist I really like personally and as an artist, who I've seen numerous times over the years, and actually says the same things in the show, all of them sounding like they're off the cuff.
Yeah.
And I totally understand that, and I'm tempted by it, because when you're out on the road and doing gigs, and you know, we go to all sorts of places normally, and you often don't know exactly what's going to happen when you get there if you haven't played the place before.
Yeah.
It's a whole new set of people. There's a whole lot of people to talk to, and sound crews to work with, promoters to work with, audience members to talk to. And you have a lot on your mind. And I can fully understand that you might feel like the one thing you can absolutely bank on is your show.
Yeah. I was going to say it's as you said, comfort zone. You know it works.
Yeah.
You know that line will get a laugh. It's a great introduction.
Yeah.
Leading into whatever song it's going to be, for example.
But I felt that wasn't the way to go for two reasons. One, I started to irritate myself by saying the same things all the time.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there are some things about the songs that I say that have to be said, that explain the song, that are factual or background. But some of the rest of it, you know, I'm not a comedian and no desire to be, and you know, to find yourself saying the same things that were funny 3-4 shows ago, well, they might still be funny now because it's a new audience, but you start to feel like, you know, what am I, you know, a musical act, and there must be different things to say, and so I didn't want to keep saying the same things, and the other thing was, because there are now a lot of songs, I don't want them, you know, to die away, and so, you know, keep doing them, keep varying the show, you know, so that's another reason to not do the same thing all the time.
Sure. I think sometimes people like to hear the same things now and again, I guess, as well. But then we've done festivals, for example, where it's not appropriate to introduce the song like in that sense, and we'll just do it, and it still works. You know, it's.
Yeah, that's a completely good point. You know, outdoor stuff. You know, there are times when it's not right to do all the talking. It just won't work, and
Yeah.
you know, at a festival, the people are not going to hear or listen to that, and they're going to think, you know, shut the fuck up and get on with the music. It's amazing how short the songs are when there's no talking. By the way,
Yeah,
you know,
I can relate to that.
you've done like 10 songs, and you think it must be the end of the evening. You realise you've only done half an hour. Well, the whole thing about me and music is it's the only thing I've done that hasn't been an effort. And it's the only thing that's kind of happened on its own, with, you know, of its own momentum. And that's what makes it such a precious thing, because everything else in life is a struggle for most people most of the time. And for something to just happen of its own accord is quite extraordinary, and I very much appreciate that. And the playing is part of it. I mean, I played for years, but not like this. And I was, I guess, okay as a guitar player, and then I didn't play for decades. And then I got this guitar for myself, just as a sort of gift to self, because these nationals were around, and they hadn't been around when I was young. I thought, well, you can actually buy them. I bought it, and I was listening to music at the time. I got back to doing that. I was listening to the old original blues stuff and reading the sleeve notes and discovering about open tunings. Well, I knew about open tunings, but I hadn't really done anything with them other than a bit of slide playing. So I whacked the thing into whatever it was then, open D, which the old guys used to call Vestapol. And I suddenly found I could play with this finger picking style, and whenever I'd done finger picking before, it had always been just thumb and forefinger. I do remember sitting in my house at the time, and there was a mirror in the room, and it sounds awful this, but I was playing, and I thought, that can't be me. And I looked in the mirror, and I thought, Christ, look at those fingers going, that's an extraordinary sound. And when you looked in the mirror, of course, there wasn't very much action to see, because there's only the thumb and finger, and yet there were all these notes coming out, and I thought, wow, that can't be me. So from then on, you know, I thought, this works for me. This is something I've got. So then I wrote all the songs in, you know, obviously in that style.
So when you first ever started playing guitar, were you playing electric guitar, acoustic guitar, you know, normally?
Yeah, at school, you know, there was no such thing in those days, you know, early medieval period really. There were no tuition DVDs. The world of music teaching was pretty well non-existent, so you just picked up stuff you could pick up. So I always knew a little bit about blues and how to play that. And I did some finger picking, but it wasn't especially dexterous, because I was in standard tuning. I don't know, it was okay, but you know, once I got into this, the whole thing was transformed. Well, it'd be good to be able to start doing them again, won't it?
It would.
Well, I mean, what you can expect is a whole variety of songs on a whole variety of subjects, where you will hear the words, and you might or might not find them interesting, thought-provoking, amusing, or whatever, but each one that's served up will be on a different subject, and you may be able to relate that to your own life or not. You'll see some extraordinary playing by the rhythm section of Ben and Charles.
Extraordinary being the word.
And the three of us really does work. You don't need anybody else in there. It's a big sound and full, and all kinds of great music skill are on display for you. You'll hear, I guess, a sound that isn't incredibly common, where an acoustic instrument, albeit a pretty loud acoustic instrument, is lead rather than electric guitar. But I submit to the jury that that doesn't in any way make it quiet or soft music. There's plenty of attack in that. And you'll hear some observations, some of which will be off the cuff when talking about the songs. And some of them, because they have stories behind them, background information about people, places and events, you might even learn something of interest too.
And normally have 3 guitars on stage?
Yeah. I've got this one, and this is my sort of main guitar, and there's a 12-string guitar, which we have a bunch of songs on that. Very, very different sound, and it's a really nice instrument with a big, fat 12-string sound.
Yeah.
And then I've got another National that I had made by the National Company in California, and I got that so that I wouldn't be retuning during shows.
Aha.
Not very good at that, and don't like watching people retune on stage.
No, it can be bloody awkward watching.
Yeah, especially if they're inept at it. Especially if their double bass player is frowning at them while they're being inept at it.
Yeah, he's usually frowning anyway.
And so from the point of view of the show flowing, just pick up another guitar in that tuning. So the 3 guitars are in 3 different tunings, 3 different sets of songs have been written on and are played on those guitars. So they sort of separate into mini sets. Well, because a lot of them are new for me, in the sense I have not heard them done like this, other than in a recording most of the time. Some ones that had seemed less remarkable to me now seem very remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Toolmakers Blues song, which is a more recent one, is a standout track. It's a fully formed story about an aspect of life that affects an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's one I especially like. We've got a sing-along song, I'm Damned, with a sing-along chorus. Finally got that. The 12-string song everybody knows, I really like that. That's a nice, bright, jolly tune. Not necessarily bright and jolly words, but can be deceptive. And I quite like the combination of a bright and jolly tune with some slightly darker words, as often been pointed out. We've got a song called Same Roads, which is a tour de force for the 3 of us playing. There was Go Nice, which is one of my favourites that I've written.
Yeah, it's one of my favourites as well, Go Nice.
Yeah, that one builds really nicely.
The washboard feature.
The washboard feature. And the title, for what it's worth, every album's been given a title. It isn't the title of one of the songs, but is a phrase or word in one of the songs. And this one is in the song Reckless Mind. And it will have typically fantastic artwork by Andy Hall, who's doing his lino cuts as we speak for the album cover. And all manner of stuff will surround it.
Just on that point, the album name is taken from a lyric of one of the songs on that applies to every album.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, Road to Liberty out very soon. Make sure you buy it. And the last one, Panoramic View, got a pretty good rhythm section on them too, especially.
It has.
But they're all great. Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
Hope this comes across okay.
Yeah, me too.